Good evening and welcome along to the Manor House Inn here in Ditchy. This is the Racegoers Guide to Cheltenham Hawthorn for 2019. The Blackmore and Sparkford Vale point-to-point coming up this Sunday afternoon. 6 races on the programme. We start at 12:30, plus a couple of pony races as well to conclude the card on what will hopefully be a fantastic afternoon of point-to-point action. I'm very pleased to say that Brian Carver, a prodigious young talent amongst the pointing ranks, has joined me here this evening. Brian, thank you for taking the time. I believe you're on the driving range not so long ago, and you've whisked it back here. Good to have your company.
Well, no, thank you for inviting me here, and I'm glad to be here. Went with Harry Durham, hit a few balls out in the driving range, and rushed our way here, and we'll try wing through these now and give you a few tips for the coming weekend.
We will indeed. Brian has got, I think, 4 rides on the programme at this moment in time. And on Sunday afternoon up at the racecourse, we start with an open maiden race over 2.5 miles due off at 12:30. Brian, you were telling us that you've got a ride in the maiden. Firstly, what are you riding? And secondly, we'll go through a few of them as well.
So in the first maiden, I've got a horse called Earth Leader for Rose Luxton. I've ridden him twice so far this season. First time out, unseated me at the third last at Larkhill. We were still travelling very nicely. Second time out was at Larkhill then as well. Ran a very good race to finish third behind a horse called Country Legend, which went on to finish second, then a restricted next time out. I think the step back to 2.5 mile is probably going to suit him, as he's a very strong travelling horse, and just that little bit, going on that extra bit, could help him to settle a little bit better, and hopefully jumps well, and we'll go there hoping for the best of them. A few of the horses I pick out, the Bally Jim is always one that runs a very, very good race, and it's about time that he nearly broke his maiden tag.
He's been second, isn't he, a couple of times recently?
He has, yeah, and he's already got 2 runs underneath his belt this season, so you'd be hoping he could go on to improve again and go one better.
Certainly would, and obviously people watching this will know the name Rose Loxton. Obviously she's trained umpteen point-to-point winners, especially around Cheltenham Hawthorn. But your connection, you work for Paul Nicholls, for those that don't know.
Yeah, so I spend I work at Paul's full-time, and then lunchtimes I actually spend going out to Rose's, and I ride out there every lunchtime. And she's got 5 point-to-pointers in at the minute, 2 maidens, and then she's also got Verac, Kid de Burley, and Montreal Gibraltar. 3 nice horses to have. Very
nice horses indeed. Less lunching, more working for Brian Carver during the afternoons. In the first maiden, I had a quick chat with Charlie Post earlier. I see Francesca Nimmo's got a couple in there as well, Breaking the Ice and Presence of Mind. You're a man with your finger on the pulse. The name Nimmo, maidens, that must sort of send fear into you when you've got to ride in the race as well, because they're pretty good operators.
Thankfully I was lucky enough earlier on in the season to have a winner for Fran and Charlie, which went on to sell well. But as far as I know, I'm not too sure if they make their way down. You want to be fearing them.
You certainly do. Francesca Nimmo and Charlie Post, who plies his trade professionally under rules, obviously very, very good operators indeed when it comes to the maiden. So, in conclusion, Brian, your ride in the first will be hopeful maybe of a top 4 finish?
Yeah, I'd be very hopeful.
Brian's pretty hopeful then in the first. That's the 2.5 mile maiden. We move on then. Race 2 is the Blackmore and Sparkford Vale Hunt Members, Farmers and Subscribers race. Always a race worth winning amongst the local participants. And for all there's never a big entry, it's usually a pretty classy one as well. The famous Denman Seymour Business Colours have been successful in this race down through the years. The likes of Meanest Dandy, I think, won the race a few years ago. You were probably still in school then, I would imagine, probably 2008 or 2009. On the hunt race, you don't have a ride in it, you were telling me. Bit of ex-Nicholls talent in the race entered as Ben Volio in there for Doug Proctor and also Miriam Square, who actually ran very well last time for 4th at Badbury Rings. Virac, I'm not sure if he runs. Can you shed any light on the Virac situation as far as the hunt race is concerned?
Virac, I'm not too sure about him at the minute. I know he's got another entry as well in the Open, but to be honest, whatever he goes in, he would have a very, very good chance.
He certainly would. And should Virak not run in the Hunt members race, it would look to be Robin de Bos, I think, for the Hepburns, who would probably be the best possible chance in that race. He's got some nice form, and he got on a real roll towards the middle to end of last year. So that's the first two races. We have a parade of hounds thereafter, so there'll be a nice little interlude for all concerned, notably the race caller. Race 3 is an open maiden. This is back to 3 miles here, Brian. Do you have a ride in this one?
I do indeed. In this one I ride for Stuart Sampson on a horse called Island Rendezvous, which he's had a few runs under rules and didn't really show much form, so they brought him back to Pointing just to try kind of do his confidence a bit of good. He's only ran once, which was last season, and he finished 5th at Larkhill in a hot enough maiden, to be fair. But a few horses I'd be afraid of in this would be Tom Lacey has one entered, number 3 Kadzand. Whatever Tom Lacey enters normally he's a very, very shrewd man and has him right on the day, so that would be one to be feared. And also again, Fran Nimmo has 2 entered in it, so it's kind of it is an open enough looking, it's a hot looking maiden over 3 miles, but I'd be hopeful of my fella to run well and just find out a bit more about him on the day.
And of those trainers and connections that you ride out for, is Stuart one of those? Is he somewhere you regularly make a trip to ride work and school?
Well, Stuart, I struggle to get down his way very often because, well, I'm a bit busy up here, and whenever I can, though, I try to get into other yards. Stuart's, I think I've only possibly been into once early on in the season when I had a bit more time. But I was lucky enough last year. I think Stuart gave me 4 winners from a handful of rides, which was, well, he's a very good trainer and good one to be in with.
Indeed, interesting entries as well for Cheltenham Hawthorn this Sunday. There's horses from all over the place, and one such Ledbury qualified horse is number 13 in race 3. Sam Jukes trains Shom the Way, who certainly would have, I think, form good enough to run well there. But it's an interesting race, as Brian alludes to, the likes of the Nimmo stable and also Tom Lacey with entries as well, a son of Stowaway Kadzan. So I think we'd certainly fear that one. So Brian's got a couple of rides in the first 3 races. We're halfway through the card, and after this little interlude, we're going to take a look at the mixed open race, which certainly attracted a very decent field indeed, and we'll be getting Brian Carver's thoughts on that after this.